So, National People's Power leader Anura Dissanayake was sworn in as the 9th Executive President of Sri Lanka on Monday. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated Anura Dissanayake for his victory in the Sri Lankan presidential elections. In a post on X, Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrote, "Congratulations to Anura Dissanayake on his victory in the Sri Lankan presidential elections. Sri Lanka holds a special place in India's neighbourhood first policy and vision saga." He said he looks forward to working closely with him to further strengthen their multifaceted cooperation for the benefit of their peoples and the entire region. Responding to the Indian Prime Minister's post, Dissanayake pledged to engage in collaborative efforts for the benefit of the region. In a post, he said, and I quote Anura, "Thank you, Prime Minister Modi, for your kind words and support. I share your commitment to strengthening the ties between our nations. Together, we can work towards enhancing cooperation for the benefit of our peoples and the entire region." Unquote. President of the India-Sri Lanka Society and Vice President of the Indian CEOs Forum, Kishore Reddy, congratulated Lanka's new president and hoped that Dissanayake would take his country to newer heights.
I would like to congratulate His Excellency Anura Dissanayake as he takes over oath as the 9th Executive President of Sri Lanka. It is for the people of Sri Lanka to choose, and the people have spoken and made everybody proud in making democracy the biggest winner, not just in having a peaceful election, but for a very smooth transition. As neighbors and as civilizational twins of the same culture, we always wish Sri Lanka the best. And all our wishes are with President Dissanayake and his team for a speedy economic recovery and in taking Sri Lanka to new heights.
So, after years of turmoil in the island nation, National People's Power leader Anura Dissanayake was sworn in as the 9th Executive President of Sri Lanka. In his inaugural address on Monday, the leftist alliance leader Dissanayake assured his dedication to uphold and strengthen democracy, acknowledging the challenges that lie before his government. More details in our next report.
Marxist-leaning politician Anura Dissanayake took oath as Sri Lanka's president, a day after he won a comprehensive victory in a closely contested election. These elections knocked out the incumbent president Ranil Wickremesinghe and opposition leader Sajith Premadasa. The mandate is being seen as a vote against the established political parties which have been in power for many years. This was the country's first election since its economy buckled in 2022 under a severe foreign exchange shortage, leaving it unable to pay for imports of essential including fuel, medicine and cooking gas. The protests forced then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to flee and later resign.
We'll see a lot of old players will be taken off from the parliament and well-educated and more youngsters coming into the parliament. It's a very good opportunity for Sri Lanka go for a proper change.
Dissanayake had promised to dissolve parliament within 45 days of taking office for a fresh mandate for his policies in general elections. As per experts, the parliamentary elections can be held as early as in November this year. His party, Janataka Vimukti Peramuna, has only 3 parliamentarians in the 225-member house, which would make it difficult to run the government. On the other hand, as the new government takes shape, people would be looking forward to fulfillment of various promises made by the new president. Voters, particularly the youth, were drawn to his promises of cleaning up the country's politics and easing the economic burden on the populace.
We have a deep understanding that we have got a challenging country. Our politics must be cleaner than this. There is a need for a political culture that people expect. We will commit ourselves to that. The public have a very negative view of politicians and politics.
55-year-old Dissanayake presented himself as the candidate of change for those reeling under austerity measures linked to a $2.9 billion International Monetary Fund bailout. What needs to be seen is that if the new government relaxes austerity measures to ease the troubles for the poor. Despite the uncertainty, Dissanayake's election represents a significant political transformation in Sri Lanka. His ability to navigate economic reform and fulfill his promises will define whether his political shift becomes a long-lasting change or a brief departure from the norm. Ahmed Muin Farooqi's report for DD India.
And now let's try and understand Sri Lanka's election verdict with Dr. Ahmed Muin Farooqi. Dr. Farooqi joins us from Colombo. Dr. Farooqi, so Anura Dissanayake has been elected president now, defeating established political leaders. How would you rate Anura Dissanayake's leadership qualities?
Tanvi, you see, it is a very long drawn career which Mr. Dissanayake has had in JVP. He joined JVP in 1995 as a regular worker, and later on was part of the Politburo, and he has later on joined active politics in the parliament as well. He has served as the Minister of Agriculture in 2004. He just served for about a year, but thereafter he has been in active politics and has taken the activities of JVP further into the grassroots level. 2019 was a time when he was a presidential candidate, and he could manage to secure about 4 lakh votes at that point of time, which was about 3%. But ever since the 2022's economic protests, which rocked the island nation, there has been a desire for change, and this is where Mr. Dissanayake has rallied huge support, especially from among the youth in the island nation. And this is where his leadership has shown, some amount of realization of what people had desired initially as well. This is something which has to be looked forward to, because people have high hopes expecting from him, and he has promised quite a lot of benefits, quite a lot of understanding with regard to how the austerity measures had put people into a lot of discomfort. And this is something where the new government will look forward to taking further steps in terms of how they would fulfill their promises. But it is very difficult as of now to say anything with regard to how his leadership would materialize as the president of the country, because this is something which is a new area for him. And they have said that although we do not have experience in running the government, we also do not have any experience in corruption. So there is a very wide scope with regard to how the government could fare. It can do wonders. It can do probably some correction with regard to whatever they have done in the previous past as well. So it needs to be seen as of now. Tanvi.
Okay, and how can we expect India's relations with Sri Lanka to develop under the new government there?
You see, India-Sri Lanka relations have, under the recent Neighborhood First policy and Sagar vision, they have gone from strength to strength, and more so during the last 2.5 to 3 years. Ever since India had provided the assistance, a huge humanitarian assistance of over $4.5 billion, and that had, frankly speaking, it is much more than the IMF package of $2.9 billion, which will be available for 4 years. The package that India had provided for, it included currency swaps as well as provisions for import of fuel at a time when there was no fuel at all in the entire island nation. So there had been considerable goodwill which was generated among the people as well as among the political classes as well. Currently speaking, I would say that India is very keen to working forward with Sri Lanka, and same is the feeling from Sri Lankan side as per whatever we have seen so far. In fact, yesterday, High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka was the first foreign resident envoy who is present in Sri Lanka to have congratulated and met the president and conveyed the greetings from the Indian leadership as well. This shows that better times may continue to come in the way of India-Sri Lanka bilateral relations. Tanvi.
Okay, parliamentary elections in Sri Lanka, Dr. Farooqi, could be held as early as in November this year. How is Anura Dissanayake's party likely to fare in these elections?
Tanvi, you see, JVP, that is the primary party to which Anura Dissanayake belongs to, which is a subcomponent of National People's Power. They have 3 parliamentary members as of now. One is himself, Mr. Dissanayake, who is going to vacate his seat, and in his place, Lakshman Nipurachi is going to take his place. Apart from him, Harini Amarasuriya and Vijita Herath are already members of the parliament. Currently, what has been said is that there's going to be an interim government, and the cabinet would comprise these 3 members along with the president. And there's a possibility they could induct other members from other regions of the country in the interim government. However, if and when the parliament is dissolved and later on elections are held, which experts believe that it could be as early as in November this year. There's a possibility that JVP could gather much more number of parliamentarians this time around, as they have rallied huge support across the island. And there's a possibility also that in the time that in the run-up to the elections, they would also be able to deliver on whatever promises they have made. And this could definitely turn the tide in their favor further. So there is a possibility, yes, they can improve their numbers drastically from 3 to maybe a much bigger number. At the same time, it needs to be seen. If there is going to be any failure on the part of the promises, then it could also spell a doom. But still, what we believe is that it's going to be a better performance compared to the previous times. And it just needs to be seen how coalitions will go forward in the parliamentary elections. Tanvi.
It definitely signals a power shift. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed Moin Faruqi, for explaining to us the election verdict and the change in the power shift there in Sri Lanka.